a really bad,
Yeah.
dark time during my career. So that happened.
Like the things you would hear, for example, on the calls and stuff like that, like you were talking about earlier?
Yeah, just rocks your freaking world, some of that.
Yep.
What do you say, Jason, to
I don't know where
the
my lunch
skeptics out there that's going to look at you and say this guy's clearly full of doggy doo-doo?
Well, if that's the case, then I've passed a number of polygraphs. I've been
About this.
and we've had to talk about all kinds of parts of my life. It's never been a problem. They never knew about this incident. I never did that, so they never asked me a direct question. That did you ever meet an alien? No, they don't talk about that.
But you passed polygraphs regarding this incident?
Well, I passed polygraphs for my just to say that I've got integrity, that I'm an honest person.
Would you take a polygraph from this case?
Yeah, I would. I would. I have no problem with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know what I saw, and that's kind of it. One of your movie names, I knew what I saw.
Yeah.
But you didn't go home and like say to your wife, "You're not going to believe this shit." There's none of that. You said all that. Comes
Everybody
way later.
else had shunned me. Had shunned the whole thing. I thought, well, I'm the only guy who wants to talk about this, or they don't know what happened. And like I said, the only guy that remembered any part of it was that ranking guy.
He was a driver.
He was the driver.
And you still have his name to this day.
Right. He's the guy that ghosted me.
Okay,
Right.
You reached out to him. He responded, "Hey, good to hear from you. How you doing?"
Yep.
You brought up the case, and then done.
Yeah, I said, remember that day back in '94, that UFO? And then I haven't
When
seen
is this? Like,
2022.
okay. So this is before you testify to Congress.
It's
privately.
right. Yeah, it's before, because some of the people on the UAP task force had asked me to contact those people that were in the car.
Okay, so there's a couple. Now we got to get into the nitty gritty of like how you come out and everything that goes on there. First of all, to go back for just 1 second, in the course of your career, even after this event would apply, by the way, whether it be when you were stationed at Desert Storm doing things or in whatever zones you were, had you been on or near the front lines of combat situations?
Was I?
Yeah.
No, not during my normal job.
Okay. Were there things during your career, though, besides this event, which for obvious reasons is going to cause a lot of things to think about, but were there other things during your military career that you had some PTSD from, you would say?
Definitely.
Like
so.
what?
Just the things that I had to experience in the black program. Some of that stuff ended up being a really bad, dark time during my career. So that happened.
Like the things you would hear, for example, on the calls and stuff like that, like you were talking about earlier?
Yeah, just rocks your freaking world, some of that.
Yep.
And also just some of the parts of the program that I found very shocking, very dehumanizing.
Can you comment on that?
I tried. I'm convinced there's just things that I can't talk about because the public's not ready. I've told this to other people that I've been interviewed with or been interviewing with, that I have tried to discuss certain things, and I could just tell people are just not ready for the full Monty on what's actually going on in that program.
Okay. And I started to ask this earlier, but now that we have more context, I think it'd be better to dig into it now. When you were first read into this program, you had to sign things, right?
Yeah, you got to sign. Yeah, when I was in that video briefing I told you about when I got there for the first time, you have to sign paperwork.
Which, the standard, like, I will not talk about anything that happened in here, whatever, yada, yada.
Exactly.
So when you come out in 2020 or in 2022, why were you not arrested?
Because I was coming in as a whistleblower, and there's certain protections for that.
Under what statute, like, for this?
The NDAA.
The NDA.
And
the NDAA
National Defense Authorization Act. Yeah. There's whistleblower protection that was written by Gillibrand, Rubio, Schumer, Rounds.
Okay.
It's basically protecting whistleblowers, but he wasn't releasing this stuff publicly. He was doing it in a skiff.
In a
with
skiff.
people with clearances.
Right.
And it was with Congress.
Congress.
Right?
It was the Senate and the House sides. Both of them had a skiff that they brought me in. So I fell under the NDAA. But besides that, there's like a few ways you can actually come forward with information and you can do it like a concerned citizen, which is the method I went through. And like David Grush was going in under a more official investigative version of coming forward as a whistleblower because he had already filed an ICIG complaint, and then he was pushed through the Congress. Mm-hmm. So he went in after I did.
Didn't Congress put Grush in charge of investigating what the intelligence agencies knew? Or
yeah, but then they screwed with his clearance, and he had to say, hey, they're screwing with me.
Oh, they screwed. So he pulled back the curtain, found something, and they started effing with him.
Right,
yes.
And that's when he filed his complaint.
Got it.
Right. So this is back, you have your event back in the earlier 90s. As time goes by after that, you continue to build a family, have kids, you continue your career. We already laid that out earlier. You were in the Air Force till 2007. You were then a private contractor from 2007 onward, I believe, until earlier this year,
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
Okay, and so you listed off some of the companies you work for, and you're read into the government because you're contracting for the U.S. government, so you're working in Intel, effectively. So this is many, many years doing that. But, like, over time, whether it's right away or on set, whatever, did this change, like, did this start to have a negative effect on you as a person as far as, like, your mental mind state, knowing that, like, holy shit, I saw something that probably no one else
It was
sees?
not eating at me at all. I treated it just like I did with my bad memories of my dad. I just filed it away like I normally would when there was something that I just could not handle. And I just forgot about it as much as I could. What brought it back to the surface was when I was on the UAP Task Force forum, and they posted the video of the UFO on the range when it's flying past Black Mountain. And I'm like, I know about that.
Wait, so, all right, hold on. I want to make sure I understand this because this is important. You said that brought it back to the surface. So you compartmentalized it and almost mentally assumed it didn't happen? Or am I misunderstanding that?
It's not that it didn't happen. It's just I didn't want to think about it. And I just assumed that it was best left to
You put it in a dark place deep inside of you.
I just went on with life.
And then, like a sleeper cell, in a way, it wakes up when you see that video.
Yeah. It floods back all of a sudden. I'm like, yeah, I know about this incident. And I actually sat on responding to the report on that particular, UFO incident back in 1994 on the Nellis Test Range. They posted the whole thing, and I thought about it for probably a good month before I responded.
Okay.
And then that's when I typed in there on the Top Secret Network on the UAP forum, and I just said, I've got more to tell you about this.
And to be clear, you were explaining this to me earlier before we got on camera, just so that we can have this all cleared up for everyone. Correct me wherever I'm wrong in this, but there was something called, as you just alluded to, a UAP task force that involved Congress, so they're in charge of it. And then within that, there's like a UAP forum, which is the term, and this is, you're able to access it through a portal if you are within any of the intelligence community.
Correct.
And you can then, like, go in and watch what's going on or whatever, and if you have something to say that's relevant, you can share it.
Correct.
So in that scenario, you're not paid or given financial incentive for any of that. So you're not employed by anyone. You are strictly just participating in what the forum
you're
is.
helping the UAP task force through that forum to help them analyze, because there's only a very few people working for the task force itself.
Explain SIPR, because it's a secret network.
SIPR?
SIPR, yeah. It's an acronym.
Yeah, that's the secret level, and then
can you look it up? SIPR. It's SIPR or SIPR.
I don't know.
But it's a network that you have to have clearances to access. You can't do it from the outside.
It's something.
SIPR.
It's like
SIPRnet?
SIPRnet. That's it.
Okay, we got
Bingo.
on Wikipedia. So
All
the
right.
Secret Internet Protocol Router Network,
There you go,
SIPRnet,
protocol, yeah.
is a system of interconnected computer networks used by the U.S. Department of Defense and the U.S. Department of State to transmit classified information up to and including information classified secret by packet switching over the completely secure environment. It also provides services such as hypertext document access and electronic mail. As such, SIPRnet is the DoD's classified version of the civilian internet. SIPRnet is the secret component of the Defense Information Systems Network. Other components handle communications with other security needs, such as the NIPRNet, which is used for non-secure communications, and the Joint Worldwide Intelligence Communications System, which is used for top-secret communications.
That's the one I was on.
Okay.
JWICS, yeah.
JWICS is the one where the forum was. There is a forum also on SIPRnet, and there's also some unclassified chat rooms on the NIPRNet that handled some of the UAP discussions.
If you wanted to nip something in the bud, you'd use the nippernet.
Okay, so what years are we talking?
No, it had to do with females.
Oh, nipper.
What years are we talking when you first get involved with, let's just keep it high level, with the UAP forum? Like, when did that first happen?
My first encounter with that was probably 2022. I think that's when I discovered the UAP forum was there, and I was like, oh, I just poked around at it and looked at it and saw that there was...
And then this comes back.
Yeah.
Okay. So how did the process go down with you first getting into the skiff and, testifying to people privately? Like, how did that happen?
Once I posted my response to the UFO incident on the Nellis Test Range of 1994, I responded back that there's more to this story. I had an encounter the following week, and then I put in there, and then the whole group got to ask me questions. I responded very much like the same questions you guys are asking me, but I did it on the JWICS, or the top secret forum at that point. However, nothing was classified because this was just my trip up range. For the day. I just was driving to work, for crying out loud. It had nothing to do with the program or anything else. It was just, a strange day in my life. So anyway, that all took place, and then I get a call from David Grush and another gentleman that I shouldn't mention his name, but the two of them contacted me. The first thing I got was an email saying, hey, we need to do a high-level talk or questions with you. We just saw your posting, blah, blah, blah. And I'm so-and-so. I work for the UAP task force. So I get on, I give them my contact. They call me up later that afternoon, and we start talking about the whole thing. And that's where things started rolling. And then come October, I'm getting a call from the Congressional committees, and they're saying, can you come in and talk to us in November, December timeframe? I'm like, sure, I could do that. So I went and testified, and then David Grush came through. When
you say testified, you mean you gave statements in a secure place? What do you mean by testified?
Well, testifying to Congress. So
but not like in a hearing or something. It was like behind closed doors.
Yes, this was
in a skiff, right?
So you went and gave information in a skiff.
I did a closed session.
Okay, sorry. Yeah,
now,
just curious.
Obviously, you can't reveal who's in there, but approximately how many people are you able to say that?
Yeah, there's about 10 people on the Senate side and a few more on the House side. Because I had to start off on the Senate that morning. We did about a 3-4 hour interview where
and you gave the classified details needed to verify what you were saying.
Yeah, everything. And then they took me over to the underground train. They took me over to the House side.
Did you give names?
Yep.
Locations?
Locations.
What was their reaction?
Shock.
Was there anyone there really pushing back on you, like, come on? Or
oh, yeah. There's a few of them that had some really good questions, just like, well, you said tall whites and grays. Couldn't that be a code name? And I'm like, no, that's not the context of it.
All right, can you explain that context there? I know you've talked about this before, but we haven't talked about this today. So where did the tall whites and grays come into your...
They were in a lab when I was monitoring. And they asked me about that particular event when they were in this lab. And the context of the conversation was that humans were not allowed to come into this lab until after the tall whites and grays were left.
Is this after your encounter?
This is before.
Oh, it's before.
Yeah. It's while I'm in the program.
So in the program, you have if you're monitoring this, a previous encounter.
Yes. It's a previous encounter. Yep.
Is this stuff you heard or stuff you saw?
I heard it.
Oh, you heard it. Okay.
I heard it. I was monitoring and recording that conversation. And like I said, you got to understand that this was not a deception plan, because it's insane for them to spend the thousands of dollars to have my team and the OSI come out for that 2 weeks and waste our time, because we were there for a very specific reason, and that is to keep their security on their
All right,
program.
let me play devil's advocate on that real quick. If it's just hearing it and not seeing it, which is not your fault, you're just hearing it, right?
Yep.
By the way, were they speaking English? Or?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not like the Norwegian type situation.
No.
I am just thinking about how compartments of the government could work with psychological testing and things like that. You have people like you and your coworkers who have been deemed through all kinds of testing to be highly competent, highly skilled, highly ranked, doing serious work, counter intel, the whole bit. So you check all these boxes. Therefore, meaning you're like the hardest guys to dupe with stuff. in a sense. So they may, and this is just a devil's advocate situation, if I'm looking at something that's not like what you talked about earlier, where you are actually seeing something, and it's just something you're hearing, and these terms like Nordics and Greys and Whites or whatever are thrown around, could you see a scenario where something like that is a part of you are the rat in the test tube unknowingly, that they're trying to figure out, like, well, let's see how he reacts to this?
I would say there's a very small chance that could happen.
Okay.
Because to me, it doesn't make logic sense that they put me through all the training, went and spent all the money on my polygraph and everything else, and the background check, which ultimately costs like hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then just to dupe me, it doesn't make sense.
Watching the video, guys. If you haven't already subscribed, please smash that subscribe button and check out this clip's full podcast episode by clicking here or in the description below.